I'm Stephen Walker, and this is Word on the Street. In today's programme, murder mystery games. We're trying to solve a crime.
I can't wait to get started. Look, it's a clue.
But we have to move fast to stop another murder.
Look, out there, a body. There's been a murder. The game is afoot.
And we follow in the footsteps of famous detective Sherlock Holmes.
Mr. Holmes? Hello.
Hi and welcome to the programme. Now, I love reading detective stories and trying to work out who committed the crime.
And I always know who the murderer is before the end. I'm really good at following clues.
Yeah, right.
Well, learning a language is a bit like detective work. You need to pay close attention to detail. Don't forget, you can follow each programme on our website. The address is here on the screen. And something to look out for, what's the first clue Ashley finds?
Yes, and this week we went away for a murder mystery weekend.
Ashley, what are you doing?
Looking for clues, of course.
But we haven't started yet. We've come away for a murder mystery weekend. It's a fun game. We're going to be detectives and we're going to try and solve a pretend murder.
I know it's only a game, but I'm going to be the first to solve the murder mystery. Like my hero, the world's most famous detective, Sherlock Holmes. I'm going to solve the mystery in record time and find out who the killer is.
Well, before we do that, I think we should go and register. You know, meet the other people that are playing.
Oh, I can't wait to get started. Look, Stephen, what's that? It's a clue.
Ashley, I don't think so. That is not a clue. The game hasn't started yet. Come on, let's go and find Pete. Hi, Pete.
Hi.
So, how does this game work? I've never done anything like this before.
Well, it's really easy. Someone will be chosen as the murderer. The organisers will decide. Then there will be a murder and the first victim will be found. So we all get the chance to try to figure out who did it.
Okay, by following the clues.
Yes, that's right. But don't forget, as the game continues, there will be more murders and fewer guests.
Really?
And you must be Stephen Walker.
Yes.
This way, please.
Hi, Pete.
Hi, Ash.
So, what have you found out so far? You found any clues?
The game hasn't started yet, Ash. I'm just having a cup of tea.
Look, out there, a body. There's been a murder.
Aha! The game is afoot. Come on, everybody! Follow me! So, just as I suspected, someone must have poisoned the tea.
Ashley, I don't think it was the tea that killed her. There's a gun on the floor. Maybe someone shot her?
Well, yes, just as I was about to say, Stephen. The murderer wanted us to think the tea was poisoned. But in fact, the murder weapon was that gun. Or maybe the poison was in that gun.
Look, a muddy footprint. Maybe that's a clue.
Aha! This must be a clue. It's wet. It could be tea. Some sugar, some tea, and now a teaspoon. Interesting. We could be looking for a tea drinker. To the house! Okay, Stephen, so let's start at the beginning. The first clue was... Look! Another murder.
Oh, I'm not sure, Ashley.
He's still warm. The murderer might be close. He could have just left.
What are you doing?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you'd been murdered.
What?
We're looking for clues. We're looking for a murderer.
Well, really?
Sorry.
Can't believe you did that, Ashley.
Well, he didn't look dead. Look! Another clue!
We'll be back later to see how we got on. But first, let's take a quick look through all of that with our English language expert, Rob, from the British Council. Hi, Rob.
Hi, Stephen. So who was that man you woke up in the garden?
Oh, that was awful. We thought he was part of our game. You know, part of the murder mystery group.
So who was he?
Oh, he was one of the hotel guests. He wasn't part of the game at all.
Tell me again about this murder mystery game. How does it work?
Okay, so the whole group of detectives and people start getting killed. Well, they're not really dead. Oh, and there are clues.
Clues?
Yes, you know, things that help you understand how the person was murdered.
Okay, so you study the victim, or the person who was murdered. Then you find clues like the plastic gun, the footprint, or the bottle. That must have been fun.
Yes, we had a great time. We felt a bit like Sherlock Holmes.
Well, I'm sure a lot of you know about Sherlock Holmes, but I want to start with must. Have a look at these clips.
And you must be Stephen Walker.
Aha! This must be a clue.
That woman in the first clip, do you think she knew who you were?
Yes, she did. Someone must have told her. She said, "You must be Stephen Walker."
That's right. And when Ashley found the sugar on the floor, she was also sure it was a clue.
Ashley thought everything was a clue. She was finding clues everywhere.
What's important is that the woman was sure that he was Stephen Walker, and Ashley was sure that the sugar cube was a clue. Ashley also used the word must. She said this must be a clue. Here's another sentence with must. Watch this, and I want you to tell me how it's different.
Someone must have poisoned the tea.
Ashley said someone must have poisoned the tea. She was sure there was poison in the tea.
That's right. A woman was lying on the floor, and there was a teacup next to her. When we're talking about the past and we're sure about something, we use must have. Someone must have poisoned the tea. Okay, here are two more clips. Watch these and tell me if you think Ashley is sure about these other clues.
It's wet. It could be tea. Interesting. We could be looking for a tea drinker.
She didn't use must. She said it could be tea.
And in the other clip, she said we could be looking for a tea drinker. She used could be. It's wet. It could be tea. We could be looking for a tea drinker.
I don't think she's sure. She's not 100% sure.
She thinks it's possible, but Stephen's right. She's not sure. Okay, here's another. Watch this clip and tell me what Ashley is thinking when she finds the man in the garden.
He's still warm. The murderer might be close. He could have just left.
Okay, again, she's not absolutely sure. She says the murderer might be close.
Right. So here she thinks it's possible the murderer is close, and she thinks it's possible that the murderer left a short time before they arrived. The murderer might be close. He could have just left. So we've looked at ways to say that we are sure about something, or we feel sure about something. Someone must have poisoned the tea. And then we looked at might and could. That's when we think it's possible, but we're not sure.
We might have run out of time, Rob.
Not quite, Stephen. Perhaps there's one more thing.
Perhaps.
Maybe. Perhaps and maybe are other ways we talk about possibility. We can use could and might, but we also use maybe and perhaps. So, it could be tea, but we can also say perhaps it's tea, or maybe it's tea. It's the same, and maybe people find it a bit easier.
We must be out of time now, Rob.
I'm afraid we are, Stephen.
Oh, thanks, Rob. See you later. Now it's time for our weekly quiz, Streetwise.
If someone is on the run, what does it mean? They are getting fit, they're wanted by the police, or they're in prison.
Did you get it? Stay watching to find out the answer later in the programme. Sherlock Holmes was one of the most famous fictional British detectives. He was solving crimes over 100 years ago. But how has policing in the UK changed since then? Wendy's been out to investigate.
The streets of London are full of history, but not all the famous characters associated with this city were real. More than 100 years ago, when people travelled by horse and cart and the foggy streets were lit by gaslight, one famous detective was leading the fight against crime. It was Victorian London, the time of Sherlock Holmes. The fictional character of Sherlock Holmes has been popular ever since he was created by author Sir Arthur Conan Doyle in the late 1800s. Since then, Holmes has appeared in many films.
Mr. Holmes? Hello.
From black and white classics to Hollywood blockbusters and TV dramas. Even though Sherlock Holmes wasn't a real person, you can find evidence of him all over London. There is a statue of Sherlock Holmes near Baker Street. Just around the corner, you can find his famous address, 221B. Ah, look! More evidence of Sherlock Holmes, a pub named after him. Let's pop in. There are lots of Sherlock-related things inside the pub. The pub even has its own room, which is supposed to look like Sherlock Holmes' study, with his famous pipe and laboratory instruments for his forensic or scientific approach to solving crimes. You can just imagine Sherlock Holmes and his assistant, Dr. Watson, discussing how to solve crimes here.
Whoever's behind all this thing must be out of his mind.
On the contrary, my dear fellow, if my assumptions are correct, this little scheme has behind it the most brilliant and ruthless intellect the world has ever known.
Roger Johnson is from the Sherlock Holmes Society of London. What makes Sherlock Holmes so interesting?
He's a hero, but he's a flawed hero in a way. He doesn't have superpowers in the way that, say, Superman does, or the Marvel Avengers. He's a real human being, and you can feel with Sherlock Holmes, as you can't do with Superman, yeah, I could be like that.
Why is he still so popular?
The main reason is that the original stories are so good. They're very well written, and they're tremendous fun to read.
The Metropolitan Police Heritage Museum shows the history of policing in London. Holmes was famous for his use of forensic or scientific techniques to solve crimes. His creator, Conan Doyle, visited police museums to gain inspiration for his stories. Alan Moss is a former policeman and historian. Do you think it was useful for Conan Doyle to visit places like this?
He was really interested in real-life crimes, but actually making those crimes into a really good story.
Police methods and crime-solving techniques have changed since the time of Sherlock Holmes. New technology means the scientific or forensic method is even more important. So there's evidence of Sherlock Holmes all across London. It looks like he's going to continue being a popular fictional character for many more years to come. I wonder what Sherlock would make of today's forensic work and policing techniques. I guess we'll never know.
If you want more help with the language you heard there, you can go to our website. The address is on the screen.
This is Word on the Street.
Still to come in the programme, she's followed the clues. Now Detective Ashley thinks she's solved the crime.
And the murderer is... And have you worked it out yet? Stay watching to find out the answer to Streetwise.
These days, criminals are using new technology and the internet to commit different kinds of crime. In this week's Seat on the Street, we ask our expert how police are fighting cybercrime.
Welcome to Seat on the Street. Please identify yourself.
I'm Gordon Carrera, a BBC security correspondent.
What is cybercrime?
Crime has moved online. Criminals are keeping pace with technology and using the latest technology. So cybercrime is any type of crime which is committed over the internet or using computer networks.
What is the risk to individuals?
The risk to individuals is that a criminal could get inside your computer network, and then be able to, for instance, steal your identity. They could then steal private confidential information. They could steal information about your bank account or credit card and use that to take money away from you.
What is the risk to companies?
Criminals target companies looking for money. They might want to commit fraud and also for information. They might be trying to steal secret designs, for instance, of a new jet engine or a new drug that a company has spent years and hundreds of millions of pounds developing. Criminals might want to steal that and then use it to make their own copies.
What is being done to catch cyber criminals?
Police agencies are also moving online. They now carry out digital forensics, trying to find the trail over the internet left by criminals as they steal money or information. That can be very difficult though, as often the criminal gangs are operating in other countries around the world.
How successful are the police?
It is challenging for the police to capture cyber criminals. That's partly because it's easier to be anonymous online, to hide your identity and who you are. Also because the cyber criminals are often operating in different countries, meaning that the police have to learn to cooperate with each other across national boundaries.
Thank you for taking part in Seat on the Street.
My pleasure.
OK, let's go straight back to our murder mystery weekend to see how we got on.
Yes, I was looking out for clues and close to solving the crime.
And something to look out for. What clue does Ashley find under the sofa?
Another murder. We need to find the killer before he strikes again.
Ashley thinks she's Sherlock Holmes. She's taking this murder mystery game very seriously.
Stephen, you're meant to be my trusty assistant, Watson.
OK, Sherlock, what have you found?
Well, he seems to be pointing under that sofa.
Oh, really?
Let me see.
Well, is anything there?
Ah, a clue. A button.
And that's a clue?
Well, Stephen, maybe not for your average detective, but for someone with my powers.
Your powers?
Yes, like Sherlock Holmes once said. Once you have eliminated the impossible, only the possible remains. Or something like that. Come on, Watson. This mystery is almost solved. Bring all the guests into the library. I have an important announcement to make.
OK, come on then. Not you, Pete. You're dead, remember?
Oh, right. Sorry.
Right. The detective is about to name the murderer.
So, my first clue was the teacup. It was clear that the murderer had poisoned their first victim.
Ashley, I thought we had already decided the first victim was shot.
So you may think. My second clue, though, was the small patch of tea on the victim's jacket. Now, as Sherlock Holmes once said, once you have removed the impossible, only the possible remains. The murderer would obviously know each and every one of you by heart. In conclusion, I was led to the murderer by the clues he had left. And the murderer is you, sir.
Sorry?
You, sir. You were the murderer.
Actually, I'm not part of this game. I was just bringing some biscuits.
Poison biscuits. I knew it.
Really? I just work here.
Is this not your button?
Ashley, if you'd been concentrating, the murderer was obvious right from the start. You found the gun I'd placed near the woman. You didn't find the candlestick. You didn't find the bottle of poison. And you didn't find the knife I had left under the sofa. So you see, Ashley, it was me all along.
What, you? Aha, so you confess your crimes.
Yes, Ashley.
And of course that was my plan. I knew you were the murderer. That's why I blamed the waiter. I wanted you to admit that you were the murderer.
Of course you did. Come on, Sherlock. It's time for a cup of tea.
So Ashley, or should I say Sherlock?
Don't you think I was a great detective, Rob? I found the murderer in the end, didn't I? I knew it was Stephen all along.
Yes, you got there in the end, Ashley. Well done.
Yeah, there were a lot of clues along the way, but it wasn't easy.
Well, let's go back to the start. Let's look back at all the murders. Which was the first murder?
Well, first there was the woman dead in the corridor, and then there was the woman on the stairs.
Right, and after that you found the dead man in the garden, and then you found Pete on the floor next to the sofa.
That's right.
Now, we've used the past simple tense there to say what happened. First, Ashley found the woman in the corridor. Then, there was a woman on the stairs. After that, she found a dead man in the garden. And then she found Pete next to the sofa. Was and found, past simple. Now look at what she said about the woman in the corridor.
It was clear that the murderer had poisoned their first victim. The murderer had poisoned her.
But when did the murderer put the poison in the tea? Before you found her or after you found her?
Before I found her, of course.
Exactly. So first he made the poisoned tea and then he murdered the woman. Later, Ashley found the woman. She said it was clear that the murderer had poisoned their first victim.
That's right, the murderer had put poison in the tea.
Now, that is the past perfect tense, had poisoned, and Ashley used it to show one event happened before another event in the past. The murderer put the poison in the tea before Ashley found the woman's body. Let's look at another example. Watch this.
So, in conclusion, I was led to the murderer by the clues he had left.
Ashley said she was led, or she discovered the murderer, by the clues he had left. It's the past perfect again. How did you know who the murderer was, Ashley?
I knew who the murderer was because I found the clues he had left.
Right, it's the past perfect again, like the last example.
Don't you think I'd make a great detective, Rob?
Well, before I answer that, let's hear a few examples Stephen used. Listen to these and tell me which action happened first.
You found the gun I'd placed near the woman.
Had placed. First, Stephen put the gun under the woman and then I found it.
Well done. That's right. Here's another.
And you didn't find the knife I had left under the sofa.
Had left. First, Stephen left a knife under the sofa, but then when I looked, I didn't find it.
That's right. So we used the past perfect, had, plus past participle, had left, to show that one action in the past happened before another action in the past. Ashley knew who the murderer was because she discovered the clues he had left.
Okay, so what's next?
Okay, let's have a look at one more thing.
Right. The detective is about to name the murderer.
Stephen said the detective is about to name the murderer. What does "is about to" mean there?
Oh, well, something like it's going to happen soon, very soon.
That's right, and it's a very useful expression. And I think we are about to finish this part of the programme.
Oh, we're about to finish. Oh, no. Okay, thanks then, Rob. Now we've just got time to find out the answer to this week's Streetwise.
If someone is on the run, what does it mean? They are getting fit, they're wanted by the police, or they're in prison. And the answer is, they're wanted by the police and on the run.
I hope you got that. If not, better luck next time. Well, that's about it for this week.
Well, we looked at some interesting grammar points today. Let's start with must. You must be Stephen. We can use must, could, and might to show how sure we feel about something. When we feel sure something is true, we can use must, like this must be a clue. When we feel sure about something in the past, we can use must have. Someone must have poisoned the tea. We can use could or might when we're not sure. So we heard it could be tea or it might be tea. And for the past, we can say it could have been tea or it might have been tea. We use the past perfect tense to talk about something that happened before another action in the past. You found the gun he had placed near the woman. Before you found the gun, he had placed it near the woman. The past perfect is a useful way of making stories more interesting. It lets you talk about past actions or events in a different sequence. So, some useful grammar there, and one more thing, when I say I'm about to finish, about to tells us that something is going to happen very soon. We're just about to finish. Don't forget to visit our website for more help with your English.
Thanks, Rob. From Ashley, Rob and me, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
And fewer guests.
Really?
And you must be Stephen Walker.
Yes.
This way, please.
Hi, Pete.
Hi, Ash.
So, what have you found out so far? You found any clues?
The game hasn't started yet, Ash. I'm just having a cup of tea.
Look! Out there! A body! There's been a murder!
Aha! The game is afoot. Come on, everybody! Follow me! So, just as I suspected, someone... Game is afoot.
And we follow in the footsteps of famous detective Sherlock Holmes.
Mr. Holmes?
Hello.
Hi and welcome to the programme. Now, I love reading detective stories and trying to work out who committed the crime.
And I always know who the murderer is before the end. I'm really good at following clues.
Yeah, right.
Well, learning a language is a bit like detective work. You need to pay close attention to detail. Don't forget, you can follow each programme on our website. The address is here on the screen. And something to look out for, what's the first clue Ashley finds?
Yes, and this week we went away for a murder mystery weekend. It's a clue!
Ashley, I don't think so. That is not a clue. The game hasn't started yet. Come on, let's go and find Pete. Hi, Pete.
Hi.
So, how does this game work? I've never done anything like this before.
Well, it's really easy. Someone will be chosen as the murderer. The organisers will decide. Then there will be a murder and the first victim will be found. So you'll get the chance to try to figure out who did it.
Okay, by following the clues.
Yes, that's right. But don't forget, as the game continues, there will be more murders.
I'm Stephen Walker, and this is Word on the Street. In today's programme, Murder Mystery Games. We're trying to solve a crime.
I can't wait to get started. Look, it's a clue. But we have to move fast to stop another murder.
Look! Out there! A body! There's been a murder!
Ashley, what are you doing?
Looking for clues, of course.
But we haven't started yet. We've come away for a murder mystery weekend. It's a fun game. We're going to be detectives and we're going to try and solve a pretend murder.
I know it's only a game, but I'm going to be the first to solve the murder mystery. Like my hero, the world's most famous detective, Sherlock Holmes. I'm going to solve the mystery in record time and find out who the killer is.
Well, before we do that, I think we should go and register. You know, meet the other people that are playing.
Oh, I can't wait to get started. Look, Stephen, what's that?